Dawn broke over the Kruger Nature Reserve in South Africa. Early sunlight streamed down on the medical area where Camila, a black mixed breed dog with a small white patch on her chest, lay huddled in the corner of her kennel. 3 days earlier, she had endured a difficult birth, delivering 5 premature puppies, but none survived the complications during delivery. Camila's mammary glands had begun producing milk after birth, a complex physiological process triggered by the hormone prolactin, the hormone that controls milk production in most mammalian species. But now, with no offspring to nourish, her body continued producing milk in a futile effort to obey nature's command. Camila's dark brown eyes stared into emptiness, displaying signs of postpartum depression, a phenomenon that occurs not only in humans but has been documented in many mammalian species, especially those capable of forming strong bonds with their young like dogs. According to zoologists, grief over losing offspring in dogs manifests through withdrawal behavior, food refusal, and decreased response to environmental stimuli, exactly what Camila was experiencing. Camila had once been a hunting dog for a local farming family. When she became pregnant, instead of receiving special care, she was abandoned by the roadside, a common reality in many rural African regions where domestic animals are often not viewed as family members but merely as working tools. Patrol officers found her in an exhausted state with low blood glucose levels and signs of dehydration, dangerous symptoms for a pregnant animal. Howard Mitchell, the 50-year-old medical director of the reserve, watched Camila through the observation window. With 2 decades of research and work with wildlife, he understood that Camila's deep sorrow was not merely human emotion projected onto animals, but a genuine response from the limbic system, the part of the brain responsible for basic emotions in most mammals. That same day, an urgent call from the Eastern Patrol Team reported they had discovered an abandoned leopard cub, Panthera pardus. Evidence at the scene, bullet casings and blood traces indicated that his mother had been killed by poachers. Although hunting wild animals is banned in South Africa, poaching still occurs, especially targeting leopards, as their fur and body parts command high prices on the black market. The leopard cub was named Atlas, estimated to be about 2 weeks old based on his body size, eye development, and the presence of emerging milk teeth. When brought to the center, tests showed Atlas was suffering from hypothermia. Body temperature only 36.1 degrees compared to the normal 38.5 DC for leopard cubs. Severe dehydration, reduced skin elasticity, a clinical sign of dehydration, and infection from a wound on his hind leg with elevated white blood cell count in blood samples. Howard and the medical team implemented multiple emergency measures, administering Ringer's lactate solution to correct dehydration and electrolyte imbalance, injecting broad-spectrum antibiotics to fight infection, and placing Atlas in a temperature-controlled enclosure to gradually raise his body temperature. They fed him specialized formula designed for large cats, adjusted with higher protein content and especially rich in taurine, an essential amino acid for big cat development. However, formula milk, despite careful preparation, still lacked many important components found in natural mother's milk, particularly antibodies and immune factors that cannot be artificially synthesized. "I'm not sure he'll make it through the night," Hannah, Howard's assistant, sighed, not just because of the physical injuries, but because leopard cubs need bonding with their mother to develop properly. The absence of this connection can cause prolonged stress responses affecting their immune system and recovery ability. That night, Howard stayed awake beside Atlas's enclosure. He observed the small movements of the leopard cub's body, each gentle rise and fall of his belly while breathing, the occasional flutter of eyelids during sleep, signals of REM dreams. He knew that even while sleeping, Atlas's brain was still processing experiences and perhaps searching for images of his mother, an essential bond that had been severed too early. When the first rays of sunlight streamed through the window, Howard noticed Atlas was still alive, still breathing. A bold idea emerged in his mind, an idea based on understanding the biological mechanisms of maternal instinct and the bonding between mother and offspring and mammals. "Camila is still producing milk," Howard told Hannah. Not only that, oxytocin, the love hormone, is still actively working in her body after giving birth, promoting nurturing behavior. And Atlas needs not just nutrition, but also the emotional bonding that only a mother can provide. Hannah looked at him skeptically. "Howard, are you thinking of pairing a dog with a leopard? They're 2 completely different species with entirely different instinctual behaviors and body sense. True, but maternal instinct transcends many barriers, Howard explained. There are fundamental biological mechanisms that control nurturing behavior in most mammalian species. The cries of young, their small size, and even the ratio between head size and body proportion can trigger caregiving responses. Conrad Lauren's research on baby schema, Kinchin schema, proved this. Childlike features such as large heads, big eyes, and short limbs stimulate protective responses in many species. But what if Camila reacts with predatory instinct? Leopards are natural prey for many wild dog species. That's a risk, Howard admitted. But Camila isn't a pure wild dog. She's been domesticated, and moreover, she's in a special postpartum physiological state. Prolactin and oxytocin hormones are dominating her nervous system, suppressing aggressive responses and promoting protective behavior. We'll monitor carefully, ready to intervene if necessary. After much consideration, Hannah agreed. They prepared a special room, temperature-controlled at 27 degrees, 60% humidity, low light levels to reduce stress, and floors covered with soft materials to create a sense of safety for both creatures. Infrared cameras were installed to monitor interactions without needing bright lights that might disturb them. Howard carefully carried Atlas in a soft blanket. The leopard cub lay still, too weak to react. Hannah led Camila into the specially prepared room. The mixed-breed dog walked slowly, head hanging low, her empty gaze reflecting the pain of losing her offspring. "Let them find each other naturally," Howard said as they placed Atlas about 2 meters away from Camila. Initially, Camila seemed unaware of the new presence. She just lay still, head resting on her front paws. Atlas lay curled up on the cushion, each breath and effort. 10 minutes passed in silence. Then suddenly, Atlas let out a weak cry, the sound of a child searching for his mother. Camila's ears twitched slightly. For the first time since losing her litter, she had reacted to something. Atlas cried again, weaker this time. Now Camila raised her head, her dark brown eyes focused toward the sound. Slowly, Camila stood up and moved toward Atlas. As she approached, Camila lowered her head, her nose gently sniffing the small, trembling creature. Time seemed to stand still in that moment. Two lonely beings facing each other, one who had lost her children, one who had lost his mother. Then, with a gentle movement, Camila began licking Atlas, light, careful licks, the way a mother cares for her child. Atlas responded to this contact, his small body relaxing, eyes slowly closing in, the first sense of safety since being rescued. "This is unbelievable," Hannah whispered, tears welling up. Howard decided to try nursing. With careful assistance, they placed Atlas near Camila's belly. Initially, both were awkward, but then Atlas found a nipple and began nursing. Weakly at first, but gradually stronger. Camila lay still, eyes wide open, filled with an indescribable emotion, a mixture of surprise, protective instinct, and new hope. Her body curved into an arc around Atlas, as if wanting to protect this newly found child. After nursing, Atlas slept soundly, the first truly peaceful sleep since losing his mother. Camila remained awake, eyes never leaving the small creature beside her. When dawn came, both had changed. Atlas not only survived, but showed clear signs of improvement. Camila, who had previously refused all food, now eagerly welcomed breakfast, as if understanding that she needed strength to care for Atlas. In the following days, a miraculous transformation occurred. Atlas gained weight rapidly. His wounds healed better than predicted. Camila became a devoted mother, not only nursing Atlas but also teaching him basic skills. Their relationship developed so deeply that Howard decided not to separate them. The sight of Cama and Atlas sleeping curled up together became an image that touched the hearts of everyone at the center. After 3 weeks, Atlas was healthy enough to be moved to a larger space. Howard decided to move both together, creating a special area natural enough for Atlas to develop but safe enough for Camila to accompany him. Here, their story would enter a new chapter. 6 months had passed, and the transformation in the semi-natural area of Kruger Reserve had become a source of amazement for both scientists and visitors. Atlas, the small leopard cub who had once stood on the brink of death, had now developed into a vibrant young leopard. His golden coat with characteristic black spots now gleamed under the African sun. The wound on his hind leg had healed completely, leaving only a faint scar as a mark of the past. Camila, the black mixed-breed dog with the white patch on her chest, now had to look up at her adopted child. Atlas had grown taller than her, the long, muscular frame of a maturing leopard becoming increasingly apparent. But in Camila's eyes, Atlas was still the child who needed her guidance and protection. Each morning, when the sun barely appeared over the savanna grasslands, Camila and Atlas would begin their familiar ritual. They would walk together around the area, Atlas occasionally running ahead, jumping onto rocks for a better view, while Camila walked slowly behind, her alert eyes monitoring every movement around them. Sometimes Atlas would disappear into the bushes, then suddenly leap out, trying to startle Camila, a game the young leopard never seemed to tire of. Howard and the research team spent hours observing this unusual pair. They documented how Camila taught Atlas survival skills, not in the manner of a leopard, but according to a dog's instincts. She taught Atlas how to track by scent, how to listen to distant sounds, and how to hide when sensing danger. Remarkably, Atlas seemed to understand and adapt these lessons, combining them with his innate leopard instincts. In turn, Atlas also taught Kama new things. The young leopard would climb trees that Kama couldn't reach, sitting there for hours, observing the world from above. Camila would patiently sit at the base of the tree, waiting for her adopted child to come down. Sometimes, when night fell, they would sit together on a large rock, basking under the moonlight, creating a surreal scene that researchers never tired of witnessing. One morning, as Howard observed the pair through binoculars, he realized it was time to face a difficult decision. Atlas was nearly 8 months old, the age when, in the wild, a young leopard would begin separating from his mother and exploring his own territory. Although the bond between Atlas and Camila remained strong, conservationists worried that if Atlas wasn't encouraged to develop his natural instincts, he would never be able to fully adapt to the role of an adult leopard. "We need to make a decision about Atlas's future," Howard said in the team meeting. "He needs to learn to hunt, to defend territory, and eventually to find a mate. These are things Camila cannot teach." The team discussed various solutions. Some suggested completely separating Atlas from Camila and placing him in a wildlife reintegration program. Others proposed a more gradual approach, allowing Atlas to interact with other leopards in the reserve while maintaining contact with Camila. While the discussion continued, an unexpected incident occurred, an incident that ultimately helped them make the right decision. That day, the care team brought a special meal, fresh beef, for both Camila and Atlas. Usually, they divided the food into 2 separate portions, but today, due to an oversight, they only placed one large portion of meat in the area. When the scent of fresh meat spread, both Camila and Atlas reacted strongly. Both were hungry after a long morning of play, and natural instinct drove them toward the food source. Atlas, with his wild leopard instincts gradually awakening, suddenly let out a small growl, the first sound truly resembling an adult leopard. The young leopard lunged toward the meat with speed and decisiveness he had never shown before. Camila also approached, hoping to share the meal as usual. But this time, something had changed. Atlas, now a young leopard with awakening predatory instincts, suddenly growled and pushed Camila away, claiming the entire piece of meat. This action was not only surprising, but somewhat aggressive, a side of Atlas no one had seen before. Howard and the staff observed, not daring to intervene in this crucial moment. This was a natural part of development. Atlas was displaying his true leopard instincts, placing individual needs above relationships. Camila, pushed away, looked at Atlas with confused eyes. For a moment, it seemed she didn't recognize her adopted child. She stepped back, but didn't give up. With the patience and wisdom of an experienced mother, she moved around Atlas, trying to find a way to approach the meat without provoking the young leopard. Atlas, driven by primal instinct, continued growling and protecting his prey. He ate ravenously, tearing at the meat with the increasing strength of young leopard jaws. His eyes never left Camila, alert and even somewhat threatening. This scene worried Howard and the research team. Was this a sign that the relationship between Camila and Atlas was beginning to crack? Would wild instinct ultimately triumph over the love that had been nurtured for months? Atlas quickly finished the large portion of meat, leaving only a few small pieces scattered around. Camila, seemingly disappointed, slowly walked away and curled up in a corner, her sad eyes watching the adopted child who no longer recognized her. Tension filled the air, but then a miracle happened. Atlas, having eaten his fill, suddenly stopped and looked toward Camila. There was something in the young leopard's eyes, an awareness, perhaps remorse. The observers began filming, sensing that something special was about to occur. Atlas slowly approached Camila, eyes never leaving his adoptive mother. His steps were no longer aggressive, but became cautious, almost timid. When he got close, Atlas did something amazing. He gently touched Camila's paw with his front paw, then lowered his head to touch it lightly, like an apologetic gesture. Camila remained silent, not yet ready to forgive. Her eyes looked at Atlas with disappointment that only a mother could express. But Atlas didn't give up. He tried again, using his nose to gently touch Camila, seeking a sign of forgiveness. Observing this situation, a visitor suggested an interesting idea. They wanted to see Atlas's reaction if more food was provided. Howard agreed, and a new, smaller portion of meat was brought into the area. This time, something amazing happened. When the meat was introduced, Atlas didn't move at all. He remained standing next to Camila as if restraining his instinct. The young leopard seemed to be waiting, observing Cama's reaction. Camila slowly stood up, looking at Atlas cautiously, then moved toward the meat. Atlas still didn't move, allowing Camila to approach the food first. Silence enveloped the watching crowd, some even wiping away tears at this touching moment. But something even more moving was about to happen. Camila picked up a large piece of meat, and instead of eating it, she carried the meat to Atlas, gently placing it in front of the leopard. It was a gesture of forgiveness, an affirmation of a mother's unconditional love. Atlas accepted the meat, not with eagerness, but with appreciation. Then something unthinkable happened. The young leopard pushed the meat back toward Camila, inviting her to eat first. Both shared the meal in peace, occasionally looking at each other with deeper connection than ever before. After that incident, Howard made the final decision about Atlas and Camila's future. He realized that although Atlas was gradually becoming a true leopard with wild instincts, the bond between him and Camila was too special to be completely broken. "We will continue to keep them at the reserve," Howard announced to his team, "but we will expand their area, creating a mixed environment natural enough for Atlas to develop leopard skills, but safe enough for Camila to stay with him. At the same time, we will begin giving Atlas controlled exposure to other leopards so he can learn from his own kind." And so, a special area was designed for this unlikely pair. With more spacious surroundings, Atlas could practice climbing and hunting while Camila could still stay nearby. Over time, Atlas became better at hunting, even catching rabbits and small rodents. But remarkably, whenever he caught prey, Atlas always brought it back to share with Camila before eating himself, a behavior rarely seen even in wild leopards. When Atlas turned 1-year-old, an important moment arrived. The research team brought another young female leopard to a nearby area, a leopard rescued from poaching and fully recovered. Initially, Atlas showed weariness and even indifference, but gradually natural instinct began to awaken. Atlas started spending time near the fence, observing the female leopard with increasing curiosity. Camila witnessed these changes with wise acceptance. She didn't try to keep Atlas by her side, but instead seemed to understand that her adopted child was growing up and needed to explore his own world. Sometimes, when Atlas was absorbed in watching the female leopard, Camila would quietly turn away, giving Atlas private space. Finally, the researchers decided to open the gate between the two areas, allowing Atlas and the female leopard to meet. The first meeting was tense. No one knew if the female leopard would accept Atlas, a leopard who had grown up with the scent and some behaviors of dogs. But once again, Atlas surprised everyone. He approached the female leopard with confidence and composure, displaying proper leopard communication behaviors that seemingly no one had taught him. The two leopards gradually accepted each other, even beginning to play chase and share resting spaces. Camila observed everything from a safe distance, not interfering, but always ready if Atlas needed her. Sometimes, at the end of the day, Atlas would still return to Camila, curling up beside his adoptive mother, like in his infancy, seeking familiar comfort and love. The story of Camila and Atlas quickly spread worldwide. Media flocked to Kruger Reserve to document this unusual pair. Videos and images of them flooded social media, touching the hearts of millions. People were moved by the story of love, transcending species boundaries, the healing power of bonding, and the strength of compassion. One afternoon, as sunset painted the African savanna, Howard sat on a high rock, observing the scene before him. Atlas and the female leopard were sunbathing on a large tree branch while a Camila rested in the shade below, her eyes occasionally glancing up at her adopted child. A family that followed no rules, but still a family. Sometimes, Howard said to Hannah, sitting beside him, we think we understand nature, understand animals. We set boundaries, rules, expectations. But then Camila and Atlas come along and overturn everything we thought we knew. Hannah nodded, eyes never leaving the scene before them. Love knows no boundaries, she said softly. That's the greatest lesson they've taught us. As night fell, Atlas jumped down from the tree and walked toward Camila, the young leopard, now nearly the size of an adult leopard, gently laid down beside his adoptive mother. Camila licked Atlas's head as she had when he was small, and Atlas responded with the soft purr of contentment. This wasn't the end of their story. This was just a new chapter in the miraculous journey of two beings who had found each other in their darkest moment and had risen together, stronger, more loving, and becoming living proof of what many had forgotten, that in the world of nature, as in the human world, love has the power to transcend all boundaries, heal all wounds, and create miracles that no one could imagine.